All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks everybody for attending our weekly webinars we've been putting on. I think we've had one on Microsoft Teams in week one, and then Derek last week did our remote tools enable. And this week we're going to be talking about phones and how to kind of what IntelliPoint offers in terms of phones and what it can do for your business and what you can do to use it at home with everybody kind of working from home. Um, just kind of tips and our tips and tricks for tools during this whole COVID-19 pandemic going on, just to give you guys some help to make things run a little more smoothly for you. First of all, thank you. Um, Thanks for your patience. We've been receiving an influx of calls and tickets lately just due to the change in the workforce that we support, in terms of people working from home and things like that. So we definitely thank you for your patience. We thank you for working with us. We're doing everything we can to get to you as quickly as possible. And we definitely thank you for your kind words. We've had a lot of clients reach out to us about how we're helping them handle this change in their dynamic, and it means a lot to us. So we'll kind of move on. First, we'll jump into the agenda here. We're going to talk about phones today. So what is voice over IP? What is a PBX? And what is telecare? And then we're going to move on to the difference between a cloud PBX and an on-premise PBX. We're going to give you the overview of what the PBX interface looks like that we offer. We're going to talk about the difference between physical desk phones, which most of you are probably used to, versus soft phones and using your computer as a phone. I'll show you. We're going to do some demos of the PBX interface. We'll do a demo of the application for Windows, and if you're a Mac user, it's a very similar application as well. We're going to talk a little bit about what telecare and voice over IP can do for you working at home, and then finally we'll show you do a little quick demo on the mobile application for your cell phone and how it can integrate into your organization's phone system. And like I mentioned earlier, all participants will be muted during the presentation. If you have questions during the presentation, please use the chat feature, which is enabled. If you need to leave the meeting at any time, just click leave meeting. No feelings will be hurt. Just feel free to leave at any time if you've got other things to do. So we'll go ahead and jump right in. What is voice over IP, PBX, and telecare? Voice over IP, it's voice over internet protocol, also called IP telephony. It's a method and group of technologies for the delivery of voice communication and multimedia sessions over internet protocol. So basically, in a nutshell, voice over IP is telephone service over the internet. Instead of using your standard analog telephone lines, it comes over through your internet provider. A PBX, what is a PBX? It's a private branch exchange phone system. It's a phone system that serves only a private organization. You're not tied in with anybody else. Unlike, when you go Spectrum, or for those of you in West Virginia, Suddenlink or Comcast, those phones, that is a huge wide system. It is not a private system. And it's basically the server that controls everything phone related for your organization. So when I refer to PBX, I'm basically just talking about the server. What is telecare? Telecare is our IntelliPoint Technologies all-inclusive managed phone system. We provide the server, or the PBX. We provide the phones, setup, configuration. We back it up daily, ongoing service and support. Just like you've come to know with us with your IT care or your application care, your GP care. Security, those kind of things that we do now. We also do telecare, and we as well work with a third-party vendor to provide you with a SIP trunk. And a SIP trunk it's basically a digital phone service provider. So instead of going through Spectrum or your local internet provider or your local phone carrier for phone service with analog lines, it's a digital phone service provider. We have cloud PBX versus on-premise PBX. So cloud PBX, so cloud server, it's a hosted solution in a secure data center. We use a company called OVH for our data center. and it allows access to the phone system from anywhere with internet access. So if you're, on the road, if you're, in Europe, anywhere you go, you can, plug in your phone, or if you have a soft phone, hook it up on your computer or get it going on your computer, and you can use your phone as if you were sitting at your desk. It is very lightweight. It's a small, very small server, very minimal resources, very low maintenance. It runs on Linux. Linux runs very smoothly, very few issues, very secure. Easier and faster recovery in the event of a failure. Like I said, we make nightly backups of the phone servers. They come to they go to an FTP server hosted in our Cincinnati office, and then are also then backed up into our backup server in case something happens to that server. So there is plenty of redundancy there. But in the event of a failure, we have access to all of your recent backups for your phone server. So if your phone server goes down, something happens, the server crashes, we spin up a new server, restore your backup, you're up in less than an hour. Very high availability and uptime. 99.9% uptime is the guarantee from our data center provider. So your phones will be up 99.9% of the time. An on-premise PBX, it's essentially the same thing as the cloud-hosted one, but it's a local solution. It's housed in your organization, at your organization site, so in your server room or network closet. It does require a hardware server, or it requires a virtual server if you have that capability in your site. And the virtual server, if you do a virtual server, it does require additional resources on your virtual server host, which may or may not be available for some of you. Required with the hardware server or the virtual server host, there are higher resources required, especially with the hardware server, in terms of processing power and memory, because these would run on Windows, and Windows does require more power than Linux does. Higher maintenance, as with any Windows-based product, you have to have Windows patching, you have to have antivirus software on there. You have to have just regular maintenance on the device, so there is higher maintenance. Dependent on the internet service of your site. So if your site's internet service is less than perfect, if you have outages occasionally, or you have any fluctuation in speeds or anything like that, the on-premise option would probably not be recommended. Now, I'd say 90%. Derek, would you agree? 90% of our PBXs out there are cloud-based. I believe we have one, maybe two on-premise right now, maybe a couple of more PBXs out there that are on-premise, and that is due to specific requirements in terms of security or things like that they cannot be cloud-hosted due to regulations for that specific business. But that's really the only instance we would recommend an on-premise PBX is if, for security purposes, it's required. In all other scenarios, the cloud-based PBX is the way to go. So I'm going to give you kind of an overview of what the PBX interface looks like. I won't go into huge detail, as most of the stuff is handled by IntelliPoint. We can give certain people access to these features or these capabilities if you would like to change them on your own, but most of the time you would just put a ticket in with us if you need changes made to your phone system. So I'm going to stop my screen share here, and I'm going to share a different screen with you here. Okay. So this is the interface of the PBX, and this is our internal PBX. So from the dashboard here, we can see a few things. We can see system status, and this gives us, the usage of the machine. And this is a like I said, very lightweight Linux-based operating system. So it runs with, 4 gigs of RAM, and it has a 20 gig hard drive on it. We have an additional 50 gig hard drive on there for recordings and things like that if we need that. But like I said, very, very minimal single core processor. And you can see just by the usage here, CPU usage is low, memory usage is pretty low, disk usage is pretty low. in reality, what we're running here with 4 gigs of RAM and a single core CPU and a 20 gig hard drive is actually overkill for what we need. But it's the smallest that's offered. And then we can kind of jump through. We can see, the phones that are active on our network right now. And you can see we don't have any physical phones in our organization. We would see MAC addresses over here if we had physical phones. We exclusively use soft phones. And you can see the list of extensions. We've got way more extensions than employees because we have some different call routing things for after hours and emergencies and things like that for after hours. And we have a couple of demo lines out there and things like that. But the actual extensions, you can see the ones that are lit up in green are extensions that are active right now. So it's pretty basic there. We can set up groups. So we don't have a whole lot of groups due to our staff size, but we have some organizations out there that have multiple sites. We can set your sites into different groups. We had one company that was actually 3 companies sharing, it was one owner but owned 3 different businesses, and they shared the same phone system. So we put each of those businesses into their own group. That way you don't kind of intermingle the things. And I'll show you a little bit more with that later when we demo the Windows application of what you would kind of see and not see in groups. SIP trunks, like I talked about. So this is our digital service provider, phone service provider, and basically you just register it in here, and it links to their services. And what I kind of like to spend a minute on is call routing and different things like that. So if you can, I told a client this the other day that was that we were kind of talking about this, and I got most of my ideas for this webinar from that conversation. If you can dream it in terms of your call routing and how you want your phone system to work, we can make it happen. Whether you want it to ring an individual person when somebody calls in, or whether you want it to go to a digital receptionist, an IVR, something like that. If you want it to ring multiple people, if you want it to go straight to a voicemail, it depends on exactly what you desire in terms of setup. We can set up for you, and that'll be all part of the setup process when we go through kind of the discovery process. So you can see our inbound rules here for each of our different phone numbers, and we have quite a few phone numbers here that most of you are probably not familiar with. We have our Cincinnati office, our West Virginia office, and then we have our our 800 number, and then we have a dedicated phone number for conference calls. We have a dedicated phone number for our demo group just for testing when we test that when we demo that for clients. We have a dedicated phone number just for our sales department, things like that, just to make call routing a little easier. Outbound rules, there's no real need to talk about there. A digital receptionist. So we have a few set up in ours. So when you call us, if we're all busy, if we're all on the phone and nobody can answer, it's going to go to a missed call digital receptionist. That missed call digital receptionist right now honestly does nothing except for allow you to leave a voicemail, and that's by design. That way, when you leave a voicemail, that voicemail emails out to our entire staff saying you missed a call. So somebody will get that message and call you back. And then we also have our inbound, we have our after hours. So our after hours calling allows you to leave a voicemail. So I can't remember the exact paraphrasing on the message. It basically says you've reached us after hours. If this is a regular non-emergency ticket, press 1 and leave a message, and we'll get back to you. We'll get back to you at our next opening hours, and then press 2 for an emergency. So the way we have this routed is when you leave a regular after hours message, that voicemail automatically forwards into our ticketing system. So first thing tomorrow morning, we'll get to that voicemail. It'll be generated as a ticket, and it'll be worked just like any other ticket. With the emergency, when you press the emergency, we have that set up in a ring group. So on-call emergency, I'm sorry, it's not a ring group. It is oh, I'm sorry, on-call emergency is actually an extension. So when you press it, it goes to that extension. And that extension is set to automatically forward calls to a cell phone. And then we change that extension to whoever is on call every week to their cell phone number. So after hours, when you press 2, it'll ring directly to the cell phone of the on-call technician. And this week is me. So that will allow you to reach a live technician after hours if your business is having an emergency. So, and we can set things up like that for you guys as well. It just depends on, like I said, if you can dream it, we can kind of make it happen. Ring groups. Ring groups are exactly what they sound like. So there's a couple of different options for ring groups. So you can do, we have our incoming group, which rings kind of our frontline, they're not receptionists, but they're our group that answers the phones. They'll answer the phones, they'll create tickets for you, and we'll get them into dispatch. If those two people are busy at that, after 15 seconds, if they don't answer, if they're on lunch, if they're on the phone, something like that already, it'll automatically transfer and ring our IT group, which then rings the rest of us in the organization. So that's why we will get to your call. We have a couple other in here that aren't routed right now. Those are from things that we had set up in the past. Call queues. Most of you on the call would not use call queues. Call queues are for very large organizations. Think call centers like AT&T or Convergys, things like that. That's where you would have call queues, so you can basically get reporting on how your people are answering the phones. Recordings. You can record calls. Backup and restore. I won't go into the rest of this. This is all pretty much settings and security stuff. That's pretty much the nutshell of the application. So we're going to go ahead and go back to, if I can get Zoom to pull up what I need here. Maybe. Zoom's not letting me unshare my screen. Well, we'll just go from here then. There we go. All right. So let me reshare my other screen here. All right. So desk phone versus soft phone. So we have a couple of different options. So with desk phones, this is the standard model that we offer, the phone that you see pictured on the left. And that's a Yealink. It's model T27G. It's a gigabit connection, standard black and white screen, full features. And then there's an optional sidecar that can be attached to the side of that phone that can give you access to speed dials and things like that. And then there's also soft phones. So soft phones use the 3CX application that you see pictured on the right there in conjunction with a headset. And that's the exact headset that I'm wearing right now. That's what we all use here in the office. And we use the application on our computer to control our calls. There's a button that you can answer with your headset, or you can answer with the base. You have your buttons here to answer with the base. You can mute your calls from the base. You can mute your calls from the app as well. A couple of different options there. So I'll show you guys the application here. So let me drag that application over here real quick so you can see that. So this is the application, and I tend to keep it like this. So the application is on the right. So this guy here is the actual application. So this is your phone. We'll come back to the switchboard here in just a second. So you can see the extensions that are active right now. The ones that are orange are in away mode. So these people are currently away from their desk, and calls are being routed to their voicemail. You've got access to your phone book. So you can have a company phone book that you can configure yourself, or as calls come in, when you have missed calls and things like that, you can add those to your phone book. So if you look in here, you can see this is my all call list. So I could take this call from earlier and I could add it to my phone book by creating a new contact with it and name it. And that way, if that phone number calls in again, we'll know who, we'll know who that is calling in. And we have some in there. We don't use that a huge amount, but we do have quite a few of our clients in there as well. And then, like I said, that next tab is going to be your call logs. You have your all calls, you have your incoming calls, your outgoing calls, and your missed calls. And then you also have abandoned calls, which we don't usually see abandoned calls. Those are ones that that's when you see fails. That's when you see a call drops. That's considered an abandoned call. So this tab here that I'm on, this is my voicemail. So I can see all of my voicemail, and I can play it. I can listen to it directly, from my computer. It'll play. It'll save the file. You can see it popped up to save the file, and then I can play that on my computer. Or I can do play on phone, and what that'll do is it'll ring my phone. I'll click answer on my phone, and then I can listen to it there. We also have it set up to where you get your voicemail sent to your email. So when somebody leaves a voicemail for you on your extension, it'll send you an email with an audio attachment of that voicemail. So if you're not at your desk, or if you're like me and don't ever use the phone app to listen to your voicemail, I listen to them all through my email. I just pop them up and play them right in my computer, right in the media player on the computer. I'm going to skip over. There is a chat feature, but we don't use that very often. So the next thing I'll show you here is conferencing. You can see it's asking me to allow video. This is video conferencing. I'm not going to allow access to my video right now because it'll screw up Zoom. But if you click this little 3-person here and start a web meeting, so there is built-in web meeting, and there's also conference calls. So you can create a conference call in here. So you can create your subject, type your notes, and then you add your participants in here by by putting their email, and it'll send them an email with the the credentials and everything to get into to the conference call, the phone number, passcode if you create one, or you can do a start now and have it call them directly if you have their phone number saved in your contacts. And then you have your settings. This is not setting. This is a switchboard. So this is this guy here. So the switchboard allows you to see what's going on in your organization. You can see right now, we don't have any calls going on right now. I'm going to call Derek real quick. He's not going to answer because he's on this call as well, but you can see we've got another call coming in. She's actually pretty good. There we go. So Tom answered that call, and I'll show you real quick some of the features you can do on this. So if you right click on an active call, you probably don't want to do this on somebody else's call, but if it's your call, you can do a couple of things. So you can transfer the call, you can park the call. So actually, Derek, let me call you real quick. Go ahead and answer, but don't say anything. So what you can do is you can park the call. So now Derek's parked. You can see it says SP0. There are numerous amounts of spaces, and they're all SP0, 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth for shared parking. And so what you can do here is I can chat somebody. I can chat somebody else in our organization to say, hey, you have a call parked, and they'll pick up that call. I'm going to unpark this call. And then there's a couple of other things you can do. You can transfer. You can drop it into a conference room, or you can just drop the call. So I just dropped the call. So this call here, looks like they're on hold for somebody. There's an option in here. Derek, go ahead and make a call to like an automated number for me, or call my cell phone. Either one is fine. I just want to show how to barge and whisper. Okay. So you can see Derek called my cell phone. So I can right click on this, I can barge in. So if I want to join that call, so Derek's on the phone with, let's say he's on the phone with a client and needs me to jump in and work with him on it, I click barge in. That'll allow all of us to be on the same call. I can listen. So if it's, let's say it's a training purpose, let's say you want to you have an employee that isn't so much getting the job done or something like that. You can listen in on their calls, and you can for training purposes to go back and say, hey, I listened to this call. They can't hear you, but you can hear them. You can whisper. So whispering allows you to kind of do a combination of barge and listen, but the person on the other end of the call doesn't hear you. So the person in your organization will hear what you're saying. So for coaching purposes, if you can whisper to. So I can go into this call, I can talk to Derek, but the person he's talking to won't be able to hear me. So that'll give you a couple of ideas of how that works. And then the last thing is settings. You can set up your call forwarding. You can set yourself into different modes. So if I wanted to set myself to away mode, I could say I'm going to lunch for an hour. I switch myself to away mode, have it come back automatically after an hour. Forward calls to my voicemail, or I can have it forward directly to my mobile if I need to. I can have it forward to an external phone number, or I can have it sent to somebody else. If I go to extension, I can have it go to somebody else. So if you need to forward your calls to somebody else temporarily. And then there's also out of office hours. You can change what calls do out of office if those settings are set differently. You've got you can listen to your call recordings. So if you recorded something, you want to go back and listen to it, you can listen to it from there just like you can voicemail. You have your audio options. So if you have a headset set up, you can change what headset you're using. And then some of these, you have themes. They have a couple of different color themes you can change to. Nothing real more there, but you can also re-register your client if it's having your application, if it's having issues. You can resend your credentials to yourself if you forget your voicemail PIN number and you needed it for something. You can resend that. It'll send you an email with all your credentials. So that kind of does it for the application. And we'll answer any questions you guys might have, and I'll give you kind of just a brief rundown. It can be used as a soft phone, which is how I'm using it. There's also CTI mode. If you look back on here, you have desk phone CTI. So if I had a desk phone configured sitting on my desk, I could switch to CTI mode, and then this application would control my desk phone. So instead of me calling Derek like this and it ringing in my headset, my phone would start to ring. I pick up the handset, and then I can talk to him just like I dialed the number, and then I can answer. I can barge in still. So if I pick up my phone and I click barge in, I can pick barge in, whisper, listen. I can record still all the same. Like I said, quick access to call logs, company phone book, voicemail, and then that switchboard allows you to see all live calls. All right, working from home, which I know a lot of you are doing, which is probably a new experience for you. I'm doing it right now, and you can see my IntelliPoint background. That's because I'm in the process of finishing my basement, and you don't want to see the walls behind me because they are just covered in, they're drywalled, but they're not finished yet, so it's not pretty. Sorry about that. So working from home. You've got we talked about physical desk phones. So the physical desk phones can be unplugged from your office at your company and plugged in anywhere with an Ethernet cable with internet access. So if you have a router at home, you can take your phone home with you, unplug the cable from the office, plug it in at your house, plug it into power, and the phone will register just like it would if you're sitting at your desk, and then everything will function exactly the same. Soft phone can be used on any computer anywhere with internet access, whether you're plugged in with an Ethernet cable or if you're on Wi-Fi or if you're on a cellular connection. As long as your computer has internet access, your soft phone can be used. If you have your headset plugged in with a USB cable, you can use your headset as your phone, just like I'm doing now. Like I said, I'm sitting in my basement right now, and everything is functioning just like I'm sitting at my desk at IntelliPoint. We can set your calls to be forwarded to mobile phones. I showed you kind of those forwarding options. So you could set your calls to always be forwarded to your mobile phone. So if somebody calls your extension, it'll automatically route the call to your cell phone. The extensions can be set to ring simultaneously, and this is what I found to be kind of most effective in terms of people wanting their calls forwarded to their cell phone. We set them to ring simultaneously. So when your desk phone or your soft phone rings, your cell phone will ring as well. And when you answer your phone on the cell phone takes over the call. We've been doing a lot of that for clients. And then there's also the mobile application, which is probably the most effective in terms of working remotely. There's an application for iPhone and Android that can be installed on your iPhone or your Android smartphone, and you program your extension. We send you a QR code. You scan the QR code with the app, and the app automatically programs the phone for you. So I'll give you guys kind of a brief rundown of the mobile app, and then I'll show you the mobile app. So it allows you to take your extension anywhere. It's available on iPhone and Android smart devices. It also works on tablets. It's a little more difficult on a tablet if you don't have a headset hooked up to it, because you're talking through the tablet microphone and the tablet speaker. But if you have a set of Apple AirPods or something like that paired to your iPad, it works very well and allows you to use the app just like you would on your phone. Offers most features of the Windows app. So you don't get that switchboard that pops out on the side to let you see all the active calls, but you do get the view of all the extensions, the phone book, call logs, voicemail. You have all that. You don't get access to call parking, barging, listening, or whispering. Those features are kind of limited to the Windows application or the Mac application. But it can be used anywhere you have a cellular data connection or Wi-Fi connection on your cell phone. Now, I did put a little disclaimer here at the bottom. Note that the app does use cellular data. So if you or your employees don't have an unlimited data plan from your cell provider, it's something you want to watch. The app doesn't use hardly any data at all. But if you're on a 2-hour phone call, it could potentially rack up some data charges. So I'm going to jump out of screen sharing here for a second, and I'm going to share my cell phone here so you guys can see that. You have to bear with me just a second to get joined into the meeting on my cell phone. Okay, so you should be able to see my cell phone now. So I'll jump right in real quick to, you're seeing the wrong, hold on, let's see here. Okay. All right, so this is the 3CX mobile app. So when you open it up, it takes you right to your keypad. And the keypad's down in the middle right here, so it lets you dial your calls just like normal. You have your access to your contacts. So there's a couple of options. You can have your company phone book, or you can have your actual cell phone book if you grant it access. Mine has access to all my contacts. So I'm sharing tons of personal data there. But you also have access to, these are the extensions. You saw the same extensions earlier. You can see we have somebody on the phone right now. Their extension changed to yellow. So yellow means they're on the phone, green means they're available, orange means they're away, red means they're in either do not disturb mode or offline mode. And the gray just means they're not registered. And I'm going to make a call here for you real quick. I'm just going to call Derek again. I'm just going to call his extension. You can see it came up with his name, and it's just like using the phone, except for, like I said, you don't get access. You can transfer, but you don't get access to parking the call or the barging or whispering or listening. And that chat features in there that I showed you earlier that we don't really use. Your call logs are in there. And then you have your settings. So you have your voicemail, this little thing at the top left, it's called a hamburger, the little 3 lines. You have access to all your voicemails. You can listen to them directly from your cell phone. You have access to go and create a conference, just like I showed you on the Windows app. You have where I told you, we would send you a QR code to activate this. All you do is scan the QR code. You can see my lovely drywall dust covered desk. And then you've got your settings, and the settings, you have some audio options, which you probably won't really mess with. You can change your ringtone for it if you want the ringtone to be different from your standard ringtone on your cell phone, so you can differentiate. You can change the theme to different colors. There's a white theme, a gray theme, and a black theme. I prefer the gray theme. You've got re-register and re-provision. So the same thing. It'll re-register your extension or re-provision it if you're having issues. Resend your credentials to get that email with your voicemail pin and all your credentials. Then you have your accounts. You can see I have several accounts in there. Those are test lines that I have at different clients to test out their phone system if they're having problems. But that's kind of the app in a nutshell. It's very simple. And when a phone call comes in, the phone call comes in just like it comes into your cell phone. It'll ring, and you'll see it'll show your it'll show kind of in fine print. It'll show 3CX, so you'll know it's coming from the office. But you change that ringtone and differentiate it between from your regular cell phone, you'll know where the call is coming from. So I think at this point, I'm going to go ahead and unmute everybody. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So let me go ahead and unmute everybody. And if you want to remute yourself if you're in a noisy environment, feel free to. Does anybody have any questions?
I'm hearing some feedback.
Nope, nobody has any questions? Okay, well, we hope you enjoyed this webinar today, and I'll give you a couple of quick things here. Let me share my screen again. So how to sign up for Telecare. So if you are interested, if you're not currently a Telecare customer, if you are an IntelliPoint customer, if you use our IT care services or application care services, you can reach out to any of us to get the ball rolling on that. If you're an IntelliPoint customer with an active Telecare agreement, you already have access to these software and services that you may not be aware of, as you're probably just using the physical phones. And if you want to use any of these, the mobile app or the Windows application, please send a ticket to support. If you're not an active customer, get with your account manager, which is Dennis, to discuss the benefits of Telecare. And you can contact us at support@intellipoint.net. For West Virginia, you can call 304-733-3687. For Cincinnati, 513-334-7123. Or you can always use the customer portal at our website, intellipoint.net. So I hope everybody had a good session here and learned something. If you have any questions, like I said, feel free to reach out by sending us a ticket to support@intellipoint.net, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Rick.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks.
Okay.